Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back to talk some more disaster cycle. We're going to talk specifically about what I expect to happen. Like, this is pure speculation. This is nothing that I can actually lay out piece by piece and show you exactly. But I can show you compelling evidence that other researchers have done. I started laying that out in the other video. We will get to more of them as we go along. But today we're going to talk specifically assuming as if the 90-degree pole shift is going to happen and what that will mean for us as a planet. And in order to do that, we're going to go to Google Earth. Google Earth is a wonderful tool, and what we need to do is to use it to try and figure out what's going to happen. So I'm going to be focusing a lot today on this particular area right here in Louisiana because this is where I'm at. I'm right up in this area right here. And so the geography for me is going to be what I'm primarily concerned about. But we're going to hit some other places in the U.S. We're not really going to try and get outside of the U.S. for this because most of my audience is here. And so we're going to talk about which features are most likely to be affected here. We're looking for, what I'm looking for is what I call a hot end event, and that is going to be electrical discharging of current. The atmosphere, the ionosphere, is a positive current. The globe, the actual Earth itself, is a negative, and there's grounding between them that happens with lightning, and there's transfers that happen with the precipitation, and there's transfers that happen with different temperature fluxes and volcanoes and different things that happen, are different interactions of magnetic energies releasing and reorganizing as happens because we are receiving a positive flow from the sun at all points in time. And so we take that energy and it discharges, and the discharge we see sometimes as lightning. So we're looking for a very large lightning event. The type of lightning I'm talking about is a type of lightning that could form this mountain range. A drag of lightning like a welding arc that would drag the entirety of this range, this entire mountain range. Right? This contains the Rockies, but there's several different ranges in this. But imagine a welding rod just dragging across the surface of the earth and leaving behind scarring. This scarring is the crustal displacement due to the thermal interactions coming from the positive and negative grounding discharge. So this area was probably going to see significant lightning strikes. But so is the Appalachians, because that's what happened there too. This as well was as if there was a welding arc drag. And the Mississippi River Basin seems to be more on the negative discharge side of it, the way that the flows come. But there was a positive charge coming in along this current here. And you can see almost like it stopped right here. Like if you've ever welded, you know the heat distortion that's made, and you can see it stop right here. It's almost like this was the ground for this. Like it was coming in and scarring this whole thing and grounding out here in the Mississippi River Basin. So I'm looking for a discharge along the Appalachians too. Why I'm not trying to run to the mountains, right? It's why I'm not trying to run anywhere, because no matter where you go, you have a chance that this is going to affect you. It's probably going to affect you best case scenario. In the very best chance, you're going to be affected by this in a slight way. You're going to lose power. You may still have an intact home. That is a possibility. It's just not highly likely. There's going to be a severe change in the world. And what I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. This is our globe in space, right? Well, what we're going to see happen is we're going to see a 90-degree shift of our globe. So this is what the United States will look like, best case scenario for me, right? Now, it could go and flip the other way, and we wind up with this chunk of the United States being up here where the Rockies are now. But this is the approximation that I am trying to make happen. If one has to happen, let it be this one. This would put me in an equatorial position, right? That is a long growing season, not a lot of cold. That's ideal for me. And there will be a lot of rainfall, a lot of torrential problems. And if the earth turns this way, the water is going to move up and down, right? So when it swings, the water is going to go through the Gulf of Mexico up towards here, and then it will come back down into the Gulf of Mexico. And it really won't affect me as much as it would if it was to come straight up the north or the current north. It would wash us away and we would be gone. So my best case scenario is this, is that it rotates this 90 degrees and we go a little bit farther south on the equatorial line, but we stay relatively stable as far as zonage. Whereas if you look at Oregon, right? Oregon used to be way over here, but it was a good 20 degrees lower in the latitudes. So now it's going to be significantly colder in Oregon than it would have been before. There will be considerably less precipitation than there would have been before. You will have a mountain range stopping the warm water from the Pacific coming up and across. The Atlantic will be a whole lot colder than it is now. It will be a southern ocean. We will see a lot of defrosting on the poles, but we'll see an accumulation of frosting on the top and the bottom, right? And that it's just a change in cycle. And we will see growth in places that we have fossil records of things having grown there before. And so this is what I am expecting to happen. I do believe that the 90-degree shift is supported by scientific evidence to sufficient degrees to want to plan for it, right? We're not looking to freak out. We're not looking to, oh my God, we need to invest everything into moving somewheres today. But it is wise to also pay attention that if this is a wet end event, where I'm at here in Louisiana is going to be underwater. If the ionization happens in the other direction, and instead of receiving the positive charge in the form of lightning, we are discharging it by raising the water levels in the exclusion zone, shifting a little bit and changing things, we will have a flood event where the waters from the deeps come up, and I will be in severe trouble here in Louisiana. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think we're in the fire part of the cycle, right? We got promised after the last flood that there wouldn't be another flood. Well, that was just them telling us that the next one's going to be fire. And so I believe that there are several examples of that throughout history that say we need to be preparing for fire. Well, in that case, I'm relatively safe here in Louisiana. We're pretty close to the Mississippi River Basin, so the grounding might be a bit of an issue. But I'm sufficiently far enough away from the plasma arcs that I should be all right. I'm sufficiently far enough away from the coastline that if there is a flooding that moves in the direction that I'm expecting it to, then what's going to happen is it's going to come up relatively close to me, but then it will go back down. And it will be all right here. That's my best case scenario. I could be wrong and swept away. What do we do on the back side of this? Well, the very first thing that you're going to want to do is to know where you want to go, right? You want to have a large area that you and your crew can easily get to in order to reorganize and begin to repopulate, right? You're hopefully best case scenario, everyone in your crew gets to that point and is safe all the way through whatever happens. That you all gather in the gathering place and everybody is fine. That's best case scenario, but chances are you're going to lose some people. Chances are some people aren't going to make it. They're going to be on vacation and they're not going to come. If you're too far away, you're not going to be able to readily move. Right? Motorcycles, bicycles will probably work if they're intact. If the discharge doesn't melt them, which is definitely a possibility. Like the frame of the bicycle would melt, depending on the metal contents and various other variables, but there is a chance that it will. Regardless, any motorized conveyance other than a bicycle is not going to work. You're not going to be able to drive a car, fly a plane, any of that. All of the electronics are going to be fried. All the wiring will be fried. The batteries will be dead. There will be no charging it from an alternator. There will be no jumping it from somewhere else. And so if you're separated by a vast distance, you're not going to get together. If there's 100 miles between you, you're going to have a very hard time meeting. Like you could meet up at 50 miles, and that's doable, but it's going to be hard because there will be people between you. Hopefully, you're close to your crew. Hopefully, you have already designated an area where you want to gather. And then you're going to be focusing on your water and your food. We will get into those in other videos, but once you are secure in where you want to be, right, this is the place where me and my crew we're going to ride it out. Then what you're going to want to do is start orienting yourself with the planet and where it is now. And we're going to use a program called Stellarium to get some very basics on that. We're going to show what you want to do in order to orient yourself. You're going to want to determine what the new cardinal directions are. First thing, the very first thing you're going to want to do. So you're going to want to start your observations as soon as you are in a location that you plan on being for roughly a year. You're going to want somewhere that's not going to change the view a whole lot. Like it's the best if you're in a position like this and you can see the eastern horizon and you can see fairly well the western horizon, so that you can mark where the sun rises and the sun sets every single day for a year. You're going to want to get some stakes and drive them in the ground. You're going to want to look exactly where the sun rises, because it will not be true east most of the time. Depending on where you are equatorially, you may get a true east and a true west setting or rising of the sun, but that is not very likely. Chances are it's going to be a little bit north or south of the true east or west cardinal directions. But you're going to want to start documenting that. This is today using my coordinates, roughly. It's pretty close to my house. It's not exactly, so you're not going to find my house by doing this, but this is where the sun rises, right here. We're going to turn the atmosphere off real quick, if I can find the correct button for that, right here. Just so we can see, this is the sun coming up. You're going to want to drive a stick. You're standing in your spot. This is the same spot that you are going to stand every single day for a year. Every day that the sun is visible coming up or going down for a year, you want to be in that spot. And you want an assistant. You want somebody to help you, and you want them to go a set distance away from you. Let's see if I can pull that up for y'all real quick. And so to show what I'm wanting to do and how we're going to go about this, I'm going to show you an example from history. We're going to go back to Google Earth real quick. We're going to look at Stonehenge, because I believe what Stonehenge is them resetting the earth the last time. I believe that this was them figuring out what I am trying to show you the last time this happened. And so we're going to go to the measurements real quick, and we're going to look at something. This is the center. This is your spot. This is where you stand, right here, right in the middle, right? Same spot, same exact spot every single day. And then you're going to send your assistant out. They did it roughly 55 feet. And so you're going to have them go out about 55 feet from you. Like get a string, 55 foot long. You hold one end, they hold the other end, and they go out. And you direct them until they are directly in line with where the sun's going to be. And where the sun comes up, you have them drive a stick. And that stick that marks, okay, the sun came up here. And you're going to do that every single day for when the sun comes up and when the sun goes down. I believe that that's what they did. But beyond that, they had more sticks. There is a way to check your perspective relative to the horizon, and that involves having two different measurements, right? So your perspective is going to be based off of your hand or a sextant if you have one, but you're going to need to get a range of scope. So you're going to want to send them out. They send them out 55 feet, and then they send them out. It appears to be that this ring right here would be it, and that's about 180 feet. And that's going to give you two different perspectives. And so you can line up your measurements on your hand. Let's review those real quick. Okay, so the measurements on your hand for determining degrees. If you hold your hand all the way out, if you hold the palm to the side like so, right? Your pinky finger represents about 1 degree of the horizon. These 3 fingers represent about 5 degrees of the horizon. If you make a fist, that represents about 10 degrees of the horizon. If you do this, that is about 15 degrees, and this is about 25 degrees. So when you're holding your arm out like this and you hold it to the side, you can tell you've got a fixed point right here, and you've got your point is over here that you're trying to determine the distance. Well, that is about 25 degrees distance. And then if you can figure out your range from where you are to your fixed point, then you can determine the distance between the fixed point and the new point. So that's what they're doing here with this outer ring. But you're going to drive your stake in the same spot farther out. So they're going to drive one stake at 55 feet, one stake at 180 feet, or 200 feet, or whatever you want your math to work out to be. There's probably a way to do this in sacred geometry that is very efficient, and I'm about to start going into that too. I'm going to learn sacred geometry, and I'm going to take you along with me. Okay, so we're done with the measurements. Let's go ahead and get a bird's eye view from inside. Right, so we are going to drop a pin right here in the middle, and we're going to look real quick at the landscape. We are looking here, that is north. So we are looking north. I imagine that these stones align with Polaris and the various constellations in the progression. There's probably a way to figure out where you are according to the horizon, dealing with the constellations. I'm not familiar with it though, so if you know, drop it in the comments and we'll do a video on how that works. I also believe that this right here is a watch area, because it is facing to the north. That is the Draconids, that great fiery dragon of old. And where we will see a sign in the great plaza where a kachina will stand that should not be there, right? There will be a blue kachina. We will see something. I think it will fall in these arches. That's what I think. That is pure speculation. But if we take and we point our compass to the east, this is going to be how they marked the where they've wound up, right? They're like, okay, let's figure out where we are. We've got a wide open spot here. It's on the hill. We have a good viewpoint. We got a spot to stand on. And so I don't believe they started with stones. I think they started with sticks. And this probably had a stick on one side here that marked where the sun comes up on midsummer. And then they probably had one here a little bit farther south that marks where the sun comes up in midwinter. And the variation between the two is probably something approximating this stone. I'm not that versed. This is basics of what I would do. And what I see I would do represented here. Then you probably would follow the track of the sun. Say it comes up here at this point. Can y'all see this point? Not really. This point here, right? If it comes up at this point, okay, y'all can't see. It probably tracks along this. And along this. In some way that is discernible by these stones. That you're able to figure out by these stones which point of the season you are at, depending on the progression of the sun, north or south, across the horizon. That's what I would do if it was me. I would set this permanently affixed so that I would be able to determine, okay, so this is east. And then we do the same thing to the west. We come over here and we set up a stone to the west. It's going to tell you where the sun sets in summer and sets in the winter. And you got a progression across the stone that tracks that so that you know, right? And then you can probably look out across these stones and figure out some other point in astrology that allows you to orient yourself seasonally towards planting and growing, because you need to know where you are and what you're doing. So what do we do if we want to do that, right? So we're going to look at this. This is looking overhead at the north, right? North is up here, south is down here. Well, this is going to be your west stone or your east stone. This is going to be your west stone over here. I think it's this one. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your northernmost point or your southernmost point and you're going to draw a line between them. If you take from this stick to this stick, and then you measure the distance between it, and you find the halfway point of that stick, of that line. Once you find that halfway point in the line, you come out at a 90-degree angle, and that 90-degree angle to the bottom is going to be the south, and to the north will be the top. And so you'll be able to lay out your cardinal directions from there. Once you have learned your cardinal directions, you can track your precession of the sun, whether it is moving north or south. If it is moving north, you are in your growing season, right? If provided you're in the northern hemisphere, you're going to want to base your planting off of how far north that moves or how far south that moves. You're going to get a quick estimate. Within a couple of days, you'll figure out, okay, are we moving towards winter or are we moving towards summer? Because you might pop up in the middle of winter, you might pop up in the middle of summer, but you might pop up in the middle of spring or the middle of fall, and far enough along where the leaves are out, but you're not sure what the progression is. The trees and the flora and the fauna are all going to be under enormous stress, because unless they pop out in the exact same season, right? Like the planet moves. Unless it happens in the exact same season, then the trees are not going to know how to act. The plants are not going to know how to act. The days are going to shift from a growing light cycle to a shrinking light cycle overnight, like in one day. And so there's going to be great stress placed upon them. If it stays relatively close, like I'm hoping I do, I showed that, hopefully it doesn't stress them to the point of death or to the point where they're completely thrown out of cycle and they really mess up. Hopefully it stays relatively stable. But you want to establish which part of the season you're going into so you know which crops to plant. Do I plant a lot of short-term crops so that I can try to preserve some of them for later? Or do I have time to plant a long-term crop in addition to my short-term crops so that I can eat now and later and put up some for next year, which is ideal, right? Ideally, this happens and you're pushed into springtime and everything is getting ready to grow, and so you can start planting right away. That is ideal. That is likely about, I don't know, but I guess a quarter of the way, right? It just depends on how it comes out on the other side of the shift. We will not know that. There is no way to know that. All right, so we're going to pop back over to Solarium for just a minute. We're going to look at the things, right? So this is the sun. Stellarium is a wonderful tool to start learning how to measure things and how to orient yourself and recognize the night sky. But again, there will be a shift of this night sky when you look up here. Like this is looking directly overhead right now in the daytime. So it's not really doing a whole lot of good. But if I were to look at this tonight, where these stars are is not going to be the same. Procyon might be all the way down in the south, or it could be in the north. It probably will not be to the west, but it's going to be one of these two. And in order to orient yourself, if you're familiar with the moon cycles, you can start tracking those as well. I believe that is the other half of what Stonehenge is doing, is tracking moon cycles for the same purpose, right? So that you can track years and progressions of years through the grand cycle of the stars. Now, we are moving in a grand cycle. These stars move along with us to a great degree, but as we progress through them, our viewpoint of them changes. Our viewpoint of our history changes as we look back on it. I believe that we have enough evidence to say that, yeah, this is probably coming. This is not something that we need to know, like freak out about. It could be 1,000 years in the future. It could be tomorrow, and it's already too late to prepare. But if it is not too late to prepare, then we need to start preparing. We need to be stewards learn how to be stewards, and that's what I'm trying to do here, is start a stewardship school almost, where we're going to talk about the things that you need to know on the backside of this. You cannot know everything. Nobody can know everything. You need a crew. You need to start forming your crew now. Get firm in your relationships with dependable people who want to be beyond the normal, who want to be optimum, because that is who you want on the other side of this. You want people who are self-starters on the other side of this. You don't want people that you have to kick into motivation for this. You don't. You want people that are going to see a job and get it done. You're going to want a diversity of everything, right? You're going to want many viewpoints. That is always a good thing to have. But you're going to want somebody that can build a house and somebody that can build some soil. You're going to want somebody that can plant, and you're going to want somebody that can preserve. And that does not necessarily all have to be the same person. Optimally, there are several people cross-trained in many of these skills, and it's not relying upon one. But you need to make sure that you know as much as you can. That is what we need to do. That is what I am trying to do, and I'm going to try to help you to do. We're going to try to look at the basics. We learned today how to find the 4 cardinal directions. Once you can find the 4 cardinal directions, you can start directing your planting. You can start directing which direction to build your house in. We'll talk about that. How to optimize the sunlight in your house, and how to optimize your heating and cooling with no electricity. We're going to talk about all of those things as we progress. We're going to learn how to steward our land. We're going to have to learn how to grow things. That's coming. So hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult topic, but not really. We were just trying today to show what it's visually going to look like with the 90-degree shift, as well as how to lay out the cardinal directions. We will be getting into more stuff as we go along. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. This has been Pitt. Peace.